Good evening and welcome to Veja TV. Today we continue our series on the Newark 2018 municipal elections. This program is being closed captioned in Portuguese for our Portuguese and Brazilian speaking audience. Today we are proud to have with us former Newark Chief of Police Anthony Campos, who is running for councilman of the East Ward. Good evening, Anthony.
Good evening, Albert.
So as we start today, why don't a lot of folks do know who you are and a little bit about your history, but why don't you give our viewers, a little bit of your background?
Okay. Well, I was born and raised, and I still reside here in the Ironbound. I mean, greatest experience as far as a place to grow up, and obviously the greatest place to remain, which is why I'm still here and plan to be here. I was, as you've said, I've actually been a public servant my entire adult life. I often say that, and while going through this campaign, I got to retract that statement. I was actually a public service my entire life. When I started finding pictures of me as a patrol boy at Lafayette Street School and my Boy Scout photos, people joke with me about it, but I love public safety, and I love this community. So as I said, I've been a public servant my entire adult life. Subsequent to high school, passion of my life, law enforcement, I became a member of the Newark Police Department. While working full-time on the police department, I also put myself through school. I went to Rutgers, criminal justice with honors, and then Masters of Public Administration, and subsequent to that, many professional schools, Northwestern University, School of Police Staff and Command, you name it. Again, everything as a result of my upbringing here in the East Ward. I've also, it isn't just work, and it isn't just being brought up, but it's also community engagement. I am the founder, and I am or was the president of many community groups that exist, obviously, for fraternal reasons and for charitable reasons, to benefit the conditions of the people that live in this community and in the surrounding areas. I'm very proud of that and of the way I was brought up, and I repeat, thank you, Mom and Dad. Unfortunately, they're still not with us, but thank you to the East Ward, because that's actually who made me who I am today.
So you've been a lifelong resident of the East Ward, and now you've made the decision to try and run for public office. Tell us, why are you running, and what are some of the main issues that you see that need to be addressed?
Well, as I said earlier, I've always been in public service. So I see this simply as an extension, not as something new or different. And perhaps what really pushes me, as I said, I'm still here, I'm vested here, I own property here, is the fact that, and I don't think anybody will deny this, we don't get our fair share of the services. I mean, it's often said, and it's very true, the East Ward deserves more. The East Ward deserves better. And over the years, hearing people talk, and particularly lately, one-on-one with people, hearing their concerns, how can I sit there and hear these complaints, hear about the lack of service, hear about the poor service, and simply not doing something about it? I can't simply talk and comment back, right? I have to step up. It's my responsibility to do that, and that's what I'm doing. I'm running for office to make the area, to make the lives of the people that I grew up with better. I've done it my whole life, and I'm going to continue doing it now.
So why don't you tell us specifically what some of those main issues are that you would like to focus on should you be elected councilman in this election cycle?
Okay, and you know what? I don't think many are going to be surprised as to anybody that calls the East Ward home. But obviously, looking at my background, first and foremost, public safety and quality of life. I mean, we talk about all the other issues, and there are, and I'll get to them, but I've often said, you can have dirty streets, which we do. You can have potholes or craters in the streets, which we do, but it's not going to matter if you're too afraid to come out of your home to see it in the first place. So I didn't need to hear this from people. I mean, I think it's pretty commonsensical, but public safety and feeling safe is the most important thing to the people in this community. And let's face it, I wouldn't and couldn't be a passive spectator on the city council relative to this. I'd be an active participant, an active leader, because this has been my entire professional life. Let's talk about some of the other issues that we all know. Let's talk about parking. I mean, people could talk about parking, people could talk about pie in the sky solutions, but let's talk about some very real issues and some very real solutions, even something as simple as parking, things that I don't understand. I don't understand why we wouldn't start with something that everybody talks about behind the scenes, but nobody wants to bring to the forefront. There are blocks in this community where I would say maybe a third of all parking spaces are reserved as handicap spaces. Now, I believe anybody that's hurt deserves the full protection and the full courtesy of a parking space. But I'd be less than truthful with you if I didn't tell you that I believe there's fraud going on. There are people that have these handicap spots that perhaps don't need them anymore. So what I'm saying is an audit must be conducted to free up some spaces. Also, surface level parking. Why? Parking garages. We're in a densely populated area. We need to examine this, but we need to do more than examine this. As an advocate of the people, as the voice of the people, I'll make sure that we move towards obtaining and building some parking garages. I think that's, again, that's common sense. Something as simple as, now here's a problem, so let's study it. Engineering survey, traffic survey. Let's determine if there's ways in which the way parking spaces are metered out, can we create more parking spaces within a given space while still providing for the safe and effective flow of traffic, but now providing something better for the residents? Let's think outside the box. Let's look at everything from times for street cleaning to where and when you can't park to residential parking. Everything can be tweaked to obtain a better benefit from it. And that's what not only I feel we should do, that's what I'm going to do. Let's talk about something that's on everybody's mind. Let's talk about taxes and services. I haven't met one person that doesn't feel, rightfully so, that we pay the highest share of residential taxes in the city of Newark. And I also have not met one person who says we receive comparable services. Now, I'm not saying because we pay more, give us better services. No, no. I'm saying we do pay more, but give us equal services. Where's our voice on the city council to ensure that this gets done? I don't know. And apparently neither do a lot of the people. I think at the end of the day, you look at the things that people talk about. They talk about the dirt in the streets. I forgot what a street sweeper looks like. Can't remember the last time I saw one. You talk about potholes. You talk about trees. You just talk about general needs. And you know what? And I'm not here to blame everybody in the city that's performing these services. I think as a representative, as a councilman, you have to develop mutual respect and a working relationship with these department heads that are trying their best to get these services done. I don't think that's happening between our current representation and those department heads. I don't think the cooperation between our current councilman and the mayor and other city officials is really occurring. Because if it were, then some of these services would be improved. And that's what I'm going to do. Let's talk about something very basic. Accessibility and responsiveness. This isn't something that you can fake now because we have an election. My entire life, you're not going to find one person that's going to tell you that I was not approachable, nor was I accessible. I'm proud of the fact that people feel comfortable coming up to me, and of course, in turn, I listen, and telling me what's wrong. That's what we're supposed to, as the councilman, I know that I work for the people. They don't work for me, and I just got to get I know, Alba, I just got to get this. What I'm saying is that I can go into the weeds in this, I can give you specifics. There's a lot we can get into. I mean, you need to enhance that cooperation, that communication between the people we serve and us, and then carry that over to problem solving. Anything from having, I don't know, monthly coffee with a councilman sessions as we did in the police department to get the community closer and to hear them, to something very basic. My little city hall will not only be open later, but let's face it, there's a lot that can be done to improve the services, and that not only the level, but the extent of services to the people that are here in this community. I could go on and on, but I see by the look on your face if you want me to calm down. So go ahead.
So Anthony, you brought up a series of issues with municipal services. You are running it as an independent candidate, correct?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Would you care to comment on what you feel the Barack administration, in terms, the mayor's office, how would you rate this term? And you've chosen not to support either of the mayoral candidates. But what is your general position about, Mayor Barack?
Well, there's no secret that I supported him in 2014. I consider Ras Baraka a friend. I consider Ras Baraka a very intelligent and caring individual. I mean, his heart is into this. I was his chief of police. Actually, I worked with him closely prior to that when I was placed in charge of the 5th Precinct, which is in the South Ward, and he, of course, was the South Ward councilman. And together, after a major uptick in crime, that precinct showed the greatest reduction in crime of any precinct in the city in that time. So I had and have an excellent working relationship with Ras Baraka. I tell you what, I fervently agreed with him when he disagreed with Councilman Augie Amador on the layoffs of almost 170 police officers. When it comes to education, he was dead right. I agree with him fully. Remember, I'm a proud product of the Newark public school system. I respect Mayor Baraka, not only as the mayor, but he was the principal of Central High School. But as you said, I am running independent, and that's a choice I made for various reasons. I know everyone involved, but at the end of the day, I do not want to be beholden to any politician, any person, any group, or any special interest. I only want to owe and answer to the people of the East Ward. I want to look them in the face. If I succeed, I see their smiles. If I fail, then I see their disappointment. But that's the only person or people that I want to owe. I will be with whoever is best for the East Ward. That's it, plain and simple. And everybody's got to understand that. That's who I'm here for. That's who my allegiance is to.
Okay. Let's move on to some of the issues that you've identified and we know that the community is concerned about. You mentioned, obviously you have a strong background in public safety, but what specifically can be done to improve people's sentiment of security, of a heightened sense of security in the community? As a councilman, as we know, there's different levels of responsibility. A mayor has things he could do. The police department directly has things they could do. What can a councilman do to improve people's public safety? Again,
you're talking about one of my passions. So this interview will quickly become a 10-hour ordeal. But
we don't have that much time.
But it won't. Okay. First, briefly. I kind of touched on it when I was explaining pretty much who I am and why I was running. And that's simply this. I am the only person running, and I am the only person from the East Ward on the City Council in over 20 years that can actually say I can take an active role and I can be an active participant in addressing public safety because it's what I did my entire life. Anyone else at best could be and would be a passive spectator. Now, obviously, the councilman does not run the police department, nor should he. We have excellent men and women in the Newark Police Department and in most of the city agencies in the city of Newark. And given the proper support, they will all do phenomenal work for the people of the city. I firmly believe that. However, what often occurs is they don't get the support, and that's what the councilman can do. Because a councilman's job is to provide support. A councilman's job is to write legislation. A councilman's job is to vote appropriately for the appropriate things that's in the best interest of his people. And that has not occurred for quite some time. And if you want to go into the time, I'll give you examples where it hasn't. Ball's in your court.
So we do have a limited time frame here, and there are a series of other issues we need to discuss.
Okay.
Major concern for the residents of the East Ward is the issue of education. You identified yourself as a product of the Newark public school system or public education. Recently, the local control has come back to the city of Newark.
thankfully.
How do you see that, and how do you rate the current system of public education in the city of Newark, and what would you try to do as councilman to improve on that for the local residents?
Well, let me say this, and you've touched upon it again, and I brag about it, that I'm a proud product of the public schools. I have found throughout the years, and particularly most recently, there are amazing teachers, staff, and administrators in Newark Public Schools who will bend over backwards for you. I'm talking what I observed, and I'm talking a personal experience close to my heart where people really go above and beyond to help people out. And I also got to credit you, Albert, because when you were an assemblyman, you were directly responsible for building the new schools here in the Ironbound. That doesn't get talked about enough, but you are the one responsible for Oliver Street School finally, and South Street School finally being built. It's unfortunate, though, that how many years before that was there a school built? If my recollection would say Eastside High School was probably the last school. The new buildings in Eastside High School were the last schools built, and we're going back to what, 1979, 1980? Yes, education is very key. You mentioned local control. Local control is very important. At the end of the day, this One Newark plan, another reason I supported Ras Baraka, because he was dead against it, as opposed to other parties. And I can't comprehend who would come up with an idea where I live across the street from Ann Street School. I pay my taxes, the highest taxes in the city, must I remind you? I pay my taxes, but no, I have to send my child 6 miles away to the other side of town. Again, it's beyond comprehension who come up with that. I am glad that's been stopped, and I am glad we got control of the schools. I mean, who knows our students better than us? Agreed? So at the end of the day, I wholeheartedly support that. I think it's been too long since it's happened. I think it's a sin that local control was taken away. We had local control, and we had a school board at one time, right? And in the mid-90s, and I'm not going into any more detail than that, but local control was taken from that school board, and that's a real shame.
So let's move on to the issue of development and sustainable and appropriate development. While we've identified, let's say, issues that do worry the community, the reality is the Ironbound still continues to be a very vibrant neighborhood, one of the most sought after in northern New Jersey, if not, obviously within the city of Newark. And there's been a lot of development pressure. Can you tell us how you see what would be the appropriate measures for the city council to take as for what we should allow for development and issues surrounding that?
Yes, I do, and I have to correct you. Not one of the most vibrant, not one of the most sought after. This is the most sought after, the most vibrant, and the best place to live in all of New Jersey. Okay, so I'm sorry, Albert, but very, very proud of this community. Okay, when it comes to development, there's certain things we got to think about, because it seems that there's two extremes. There's people who want to engage in fear-mongering that all development is bad, and there's people who want to develop without any thought of the local community, the residents who have stuck it out here, making this community great for all the years. So what it comes down to is balance. Balanced development. That's what we need. That's what will provide opportunities. That's what will ensure that the people who live here, who have lived here, will be able to afford to stay here and not get pushed out. Balanced development. And what's key to that? Simple. What's key to most issues, whether they're personal issues, whether they're professional issues, communication. Community input should be, must be, and I will ensure is sought in every step of the process. That's how development works. That's how you get a win-win. You don't have to have one party win while the other party loses. Why can't we have greater opportunity? Why can't we elevate people's quality of life through the appropriate development? And why can't everyone have a say in it? It's not that complicated. A lot of issues are the processes themselves. Why does it seem that we only hear about a problem the day before it goes before the planning board, or the day before it goes before a vote or anything? Why weren't we involved from the very beginning. Why wasn't that information shared? Why wasn't input sought? That I won't allow. That I'll make sure happens. Communication is key. Again, I'm reverting back to my police background, but communication, collaboration is key to everything.
Do you, in reference to developments close to the train station, do you have an idea of what would be an appropriate level of density?
Again, we can quote stats. We can talk about surveys. We can talk about analysis. Everything that was done. We can talk about plans. But you know what? It doesn't mean anything if the community's input was not sought and if they don't have a say in what's going to happen and what's going to affect them. So we could play political games and talk about all that, but at the end, what the community wants, what they feel, since they're going to either benefit or be hurt by it, that's the most important thing.
Okay, let's move on to the area of recreation. As somebody who has a background in public safety, you know, I've always been of the opinion that recreation is one of the greatest tools to try to, you know, keep kids out of trouble. How would you rate the current level of recreational services available to the residents of the East Ward, and what are some of your ideas to improve on them going forward?
Well, again, you're right. Excuse me. As from public safety perspective, you're absolutely right. But I also got to commend you. As chairman of the Ironbound Soccer Club, you do know the importance of recreation. So I know you don't want to put yourself out there, so I will. But that's something I appreciate.
It's about the candidates.
But it is, but it's about everybody. You want to know why? Whether there's an election or not, we all make up the community. After Election Day, we're still neighbors, we're still friends, we're still going to live here together. We still have a role in making this place better. But let me get back to the question. You know, I'm glad that the County of Essex has done a great job of providing a lot of the recreation and repairing our parks and making our parks. I mean, I tip my hat to them. But quite honestly, the city has fallen short. Again, this could be an all-day event, but there's a couple of things I really got to talk about. I really do. I remember as a kid going over there. Ironbound Stadium, how can we explain something that's taken this long and nothing's been done? This has been a problem 20 years, 30 years. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could Google it, but I would think Marquise.
July 16th, 1986.
1986. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say the great Marquise Pombal probably redeveloped most of Lisbon after the earthquake and tidal wave in less time than it's taken to get something done at Ironbound Stadium. I said this is a joke before, but now I'm wondering if it's really a joke, or it seems like the only games that are ever going to be played at Ironbound Stadium is how many groundbreakings and photo ops can we actually have without actually opening up the stadium. So I don't know. We can go on, but I think Ironbound Stadium, I don't think there's anybody here that's not aware of it or disgusted by what's going on there. Let's talk about Hayes Park East, and I mentioned this for a reason. When I was the director of public safety, I was a direct representative of Mayor Cory Booker. And I remember me and you and a host of other people about 10 years ago at a groundbreaking ceremony at Hayes Park East. Yet here we are, almost 10 years later, it's not completed. So what happens? Every 4 years, every election cycle, or let's look at it another way, every time the World Cup comes to town, what do? We take another photo op and have another groundbreaking? There's no excuse for that. You look at other parts of the city. This is why you can't say it's a city administration in general. You can't say it's the mayor or it's the department directors. In other parts of the city, things are getting done. Other parts have gotten numerous schools. They've rebuilt City Stadium. I can go on and on and on about what's occurring all over the city. But yet, why here in the East Ward, everything seems to take longer? Why are we always last? We deserve better, Albert. That's the truth.
Now, in fairness to the administration and, let's say, to the councilman, there has been the development of Riverfront Park. What is your general view of the quality of that facility along the river?
Well, again, I thank a lot of outside entities for helping put that together. And yes, we do have one park, but let me say this to you. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. So it's great that we got something, but I'm going to revert to the answer I just provided. Let's look at the remainder of the city and how many schools, parks, and stadiums have been built in maybe 8 years. And then you can ask me again what I think of the progress that's been done in over 20 years.
So, Anthony, we're coming to a close. Is there a final statement that you'd like to make to our spectators?
Okay, a statement. I thought you were going to ask me a question, but no, that's fine. I will say this. I am doing this, as I told you earlier. It's my passion. I'm going to make a difference here. But understand this. I didn't just get here. I have a history of problem solving. I didn't just wake up and decide to become the councilman. I was the chief of police of the largest police department in the largest city in the state. And as such, I've engaged in problem solving my entire life. Crisis management too. You name it, we've done it. That's what has to be brought to bear on what's facing us here in the East Ward. Think about it. I'm ready to start day one. I don't need training. I don't need crib notes on how to control an organization or how to make things better or how to solve problems, because I've done it every day my entire life. So I have the energy, I have the passion, I have the knowledge, I have the wherewithal, and certainly the desire to not only be the councilman, but make the East Ward all it can be, a much better place for everybody. And you know what? I'm a positive person. Even here, I refuse to speak ill of any person. That's not me. I wish other people behaved in the same manner, but they don't. But that's okay. It's a distraction. At the end of the day, I am here and I'm going to rest not only on what I'm saying I'm going to do, but obviously I rest my case on a very long and proud professional record. I've always been accessible. I always will be accessible. That will never change. And at the end of the day, the most important thing to me, the most important people, are the people of the East Ward. The East Ward will always be first. But now, after a lifetime of having people come to me for help, of calling me, of me helping them, I need to ask them for help. I need to ask people to please come out and vote on May 8th. Please ask your family, your friends, your neighbors to come out and vote on May 8th. Please vote for me, Anthony Campos. Please vote C2 on May 8th. Give me the opportunity, help me to help you. I want to thank you for watching, and I want to thank you for providing me the opportunity to this interview, Albert. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. And that concludes this interview. We ask you to please continue to watch Veja TV and upcoming interviews of other East Ward candidates, as well as the mayoral candidates for the May 8th, 2018 municipal election. We remind everyone who is not yet registered to vote, you still have until April 17th to do so. It is our intention to inform the community so they can be better educated and make sure that they make an informed decision and participate on May 8th. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you soon.